Welcome to the channel for the future caretakers of resurrected species. Welcome to the Paleo-Zoo-Keepers Association.
Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Paleo-Zoo-Keeper Association. My name is Austin. Cetaceans, better known as the whales. We know them, we love them. From the small dolphins to the black and white orcas, especially infamous in recent boat accidents, and of course, the largest ones of them all, the baleen whales, like this sei whale here, who is the third largest whale species in the world. Small with the blue whale, the largest of them all, well, being like 110 feet long and like well over 100 tons, or like 110 or so tons. That's even bigger than the biggest dinosaurs. And you actually know that at one time, whales were a lot more weirder back then than we thought. And the baleen whales, they were able to get big because of both the salt in the oceans and the amount of krill and other microorganisms that they eat in bulk, that's available in bulk, so they could stay this big. But at one time, they weren't always this big. There was a time when these guys were actually pretty small by comparison. And we're going to talk about one of them. The whale that's going to be the topic of this video, that's one of the smaller ones, is Piscobalaena, a Ceitothere whale that is at a length left no more than 16 feet. It's probably even less than 60 feet long, and taking the modern day pilot whale, who is a similar size to consideration, I would say between 2,200 to 6,600 pounds. So for a baleen whale, that's pretty small. Most likely, obviously, you probably never even heard of this whale, or even if you did, you most likely would know it as cannon fodder for the infamous prehistoric shark Megalodon, since fossils have shown teeth marks on these whales that came from Megalodon. So it's definitely safe to say that Megalodon hunted these whales. Unfortunately, it's known as most of the time known as cannon fodder for the shark. Putting that aside, every animal, every species, every variety of animal is unique and different in their own way, and Piscobalaena is definitely no exception. Now, if we ever brought this whale back from extinction, how would we take care of it? I would say the best that we can. So let's take a look, shall we? Now, from what we know from the fossil record, the habitat that Piscobalaena belonged in was basically a shallow coastal environment with tropical or subtropical climates that has a connection to more open water habitats. With this consideration, we'll be able to know how to make a very comfortable environment for the Piscobalaena. Considering that it is most likely a tropical, subtropical whale, I would say that the temperature range would be between 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It will vary. It will probably vary, but that'll be a good temperature to start on. Piscobalaena is also, like most modern day whales, are basically marine, and with this, they'll need to be in water that has a salinity of between 25 to 35 grams a liter, preferably using balanced sea salts. Also, the pH of the water should be very similar to that of ocean waters, basically between 8 to 8.3, if possible. Now, one of the more important things about making the tank or pool for the Piscobalaena is basically size dimensions, how big and how deep it will be. Now, I'm pretty certain many of you would know that the size requirements of tanks and pools for whales is often pretty controversial. So I'm going to leave that controversy stuff aside for the time being. And not to mention, there's different countries will have different requirements and regulations on how to contain the whales. For the purpose of this video, I will focus mostly on United States regulations for this and requirements. Mostly because, well, I'm an American and it's easy for me to relate to it. But if you guys are interested in looking at how other countries do it, I'll make sure and I'll put the requirements and such in a link in the description box down below. Anyway, let's get on to it. In United States regulations, space requirements are divided between two different groups of whales. There is the Group 1 whales, which includes some of the larger whales that we have in captivity, like killer whales, false killer whales, pilot whales, and so forth. And the Group 2 whales, which mostly require the small species like dolphins, porpoises, and so forth. Obviously, that since the Piscobalaena is often about 6 feet or close to 6 feet in length, we will definitely assume that Piscobalaena would be categorized as the Group 1 whales. And how they do that is that for every Group 1 whale, you will either make certain that the length is 2 times the average length of longest species housed. Basically, 2 times the length of the whale in question. For Group 2 whales, it's basically like 4 times the length. But on a wide length, and even includes like depth. I'll get to that one later. For Piscobalaena, on like 16 feet, I would say that at the very minimum, for one Piscobalaena whale, I would say that it will be that the tank or pool for such a whale would be 32 feet wide and long, and would be about 8 feet deep. Now with numbers, this might not sound much, but these numbers are pretty bigger than you think. Now, in this picture, I'm generally 6 foot even, so 2 feet above me, that's pretty deep. And mind you, Piscobalaena is probably only, like, diameter-wise, is probably around or less than a meter thick. And now, mind you, as you see in this picture, having a diameter of 32 feet is definitely pretty large. And mind you, with this is 8,102 cubic feet in size. And mind you, this is just the minimum size for one whale. You could be able to have it larger for each whale to make it better. Now, along with that exhibit pool that you would show the public, there are 2 other pools that you need to have into consideration when you do this. The second one would be a holding pool. It's basically a pool that you can have the whale in when you're cleaning or getting something out of the exhibit pool. Or there's also the medical pool, which is basically for medical emergencies and quarantine procedures. Now, mind you, if there are special medical situations that the whale is suffering of, you could be able to let the medical pool be generally smaller than the exhibit and holding pools, but mind you, mostly just for in medical situations. But regardless of whether the pool is bigger or smaller, one thing that definitely makes the pool immensely better is quality of the pool. Like some add-ons you need to put on, such as shade to deal with from the sun, toys for enrichment, or basically like seaweed or rocks inside to make the tank be much more interactive, three-dimensional, basically make it engaging and fun and satisfying for the whale, and to be able to fulfill its behavioral needs. One problem that can be avoided when doing this for the pools is basically ocular diseases, basically eye-related diseases. These are pretty common with captive whales and is often associated with environmental factors such as overuse of oxidative disinfectants or there's a high bacterial load. Also, excessive bright lights, including a reflection from light-colored paint and shallow pools, as well as a lack of shade, also been known to be implied with ocular diseases, and cornea edema, basically like a clouding of the cornea. It's often the first indication of a environmental problem. But these are not uncommon due to like trauma or underlying diseases that could affect this. These regardless, these cornea defects can be painful and difficult to see for the animals or difficult to see in general, because the animals would tightly clamp their lids shut. There are there there are several treatments that include topical or systematic treatments, or both. It depends on the temperament of the animal. One of them would be an oral administration of oxytocins and carotenoids, basically like found in like grapeseed, vitamin C, and so forth. However, successful resolution and prevention of this sort of thing depends on the removal of the underlying cause of this ordeal. Next up on the list for Piscobalaena is feeding them. Now, mind you, these are filter feeder whales that mostly feed on krill and other small animals. But due to their size, it's not unreasonable to think they will go after squid and fish, as, as well as krill and shrimp. So if you could be able to have these available, this will definitely be a good start. But it doesn't end there. Now, mind you, with marine mammals, how much food they will need a day would vary from species to species and from environmental factors like temperatures, age, and conditions, and so on. For the case of baleen whales, or in case our Piscobalaena, I would say that with generally with larger marine mammals in captivity, such as whales and elephant seals, they would generally need between 2 to 5% of their body weight daily. And we know that baleen whales will generally eat around 4.5% of their body weight every day. Now, for the case of Piscobalaena, which is probably between 2,200 or 2,200 and 6,600 pounds, I would say that Piscobalaena will probably need to eat about 99 pounds of food a day, or basically 100 pounds of food a day, in order to stay happy and healthy. Along with that, there are several other factors that need to be taken account for when making certain that the whales have all the nutrition they need. One nutritional thing that would definitely be needed is hydration, because since the fish that are pretty much preserved for the whales are frozen, they become a little bit dry. And it turns out that whales will get most of their fresh water from the fish that they eat. One way that has been become popular in the internet now recently to be able to do this is by giving them ice. Like small cubes of ice, and apparently they will love it, just like how belugas and other species of whale would do it. And there's even a good idea for feeding and enrichment. Perhaps that you could be able to have shrimp and fish that are blended, frozen in little cubes, and feed them that way. Or You could be able to make like a sort of like a fish-based kibble that the pieces are small enough for that the whales can swallow. Then you can just spread around and across the tank, and the whales was going to do their little baleen feeding, or even like make like a fish flavored or base gelatin that you can give to the whales. That will probably give them nutritionally fed, and since they don't dissolve in water that quickly, a good enrichment too. Along with hydration, thiamine deficiencies would definitely be an issue when feeding any fish eating animal frozen fish. Frozen fish should have a thiamine supplements inside them or placed inside them because the activity of anti-thiamine substances or enzymes in the fish will destroy it after it's being frozen. And these active enzymes will also destroy supplemental thiamine that's placed in the fish if the fish sits for too long before feeding. For treatment, animals that show signs of thiamine deficiency often respond pretty rapidly, like within 24 hours, to an injection of thiamine hydrochlorine, followed by oral supplementation. Another deficiency that would definitely be a risk to the whales is the lack of vitamin E. The antioxidant properties of vitamin E is believed to play an important role of maintaining the integrity of the cellular structure within marine mammals. The oxidative processes during the storage of fish is known to destroy vitamin E and other antioxidants. This definitely has shown in seals and even and other captive fish eaters or piscobores. Now, now it's best to supplement them orally with vitamin E at a rate as much as like 100 milligrams per kilogram of feed, which generally maintains a high serum concentration of the vitamin. This does not appear necessary if the feeder fish are properly stored and thawed. Another nutrient deficient condition that happens to captive whales is iron storage disease, and this is often linked to a high iron diet. Having an excessive amount of iron gets stored in their liver and can result in a very terrible ordeal. This disease has been noted in bottlenose dolphins and even some pinnipeds of seals and sea lions. But it's possible that Piscobalaena probably could suffer it as well. It's often characterized by high serum of iron and ferritin, and amongst other things. Treatment for such thing is a reduction of dietary iron, definitely like a diet modification, and including reducing vitamin C intake. Like with any captive animal, there is always going to be a need for relocating the animals, whether it's for relocating them to a larger or different facility for breeding purposes or medical reasons, or even for emergencies such as like dealing with natural disasters and so forth. You would definitely need to make a plan on how to be able to transport these animals efficiently. Now, these relocations can be quite stressful for the animals, and one of the best ways to be able to avoid the stress is to make sure that the animals are trained to be able to respond to these measures and be able to do it voluntarily. That will usually be the best low stress option on relocating animals. However, for very complex procedures or dealing with like untrained animals, the safest approach to restraining a whale is to basically remove it from the water. Captive enclosures should allow water drainage so that the animals can be able to be stranded without the use of nets. A built-in lift floor is the most rapid way to be able to accomplish this. And if the animal begins to lose its buoyancy in the draining water, it should be positioned over thick foam pads to minimize struggling or an injury. Nets are an alternative role to corralling small whales kept in sea pens or at least encountered in the wild. But as anyone who's ever seen what happened when dolphins and other marine mammals deal with nets, this is still very, very risky. But so if you're gonna do this, you're gonna need to make certain your staff is professional. You gotta make sure you do it as nicely and calmly as possible. And any animals that are netted up, you should put them in foam or in very specially designed stretchers or floats so that they can be able to suspend their energy partially within or above the water level. Now, normally with like small whales like dolphins, in order to be restrain them, you'll need to weigh at least 3 or 4 people. One person controls the tail fluke, and the other applies force alongside the animal's body. But be doing carefully to not prevent breathing. And you'll also need additional staff for larger species. In this case, for the Piscobalaena and other large cetaceans. Well, so you gotta be careful about their fins so that you don't do any damage. With these large species, you may be able to secure them with mechanical restraints, but this could result in damage from both the animal and people. So caution is definitely something that is a must in these sort of situations. Now, this should be a no-brainer, but as you move this whale around, you gotta make certain that it stays moist, because these guys can be able to get their skin dry pretty easily. So having like manual misters to spray the whale, or like having buckets nearby to make sure you can scoop up any nearby water to keep the whale moist and soaked, would definitely help it out. And at the same time, you also wanted people that the whale is close to, like their trainers, to be nearby to give it pets and make sure that it gives it comfort, because whales are very social creatures. They need that social interaction to feel comfort and security. So making certain that you have a positive relationship between the trainers and the whales is an absolute must for success of any marine mammal containment. As one could tell, even with a rather simple looking animal such as the Piscobalaena, it is definitely not an easy task to be able to take care of these cetaceans. But if we ever resurrect them, they definitely need to be given the highest amount of care possible. Since just like all creatures, whether they're extinct or alive, they deserve our respect and the best of care. Thank you so much for watching this video. I gotta tell you, researching for this was definitely not easy, and there was so much information to go through. It took me a long time to be able to find all the information I needed. But when I did, it definitely is surprising now how much work and how much thought is taken to be able to take care of these animals in captivity. So I thought that was really cool. Also, along with talking about why I think is probably one of the most underrated animals around, or at least so in terms of whales, I also made this video in tribute to a real life, to a living baleen whale that has come to my attention of his existence. This video is made in tribute to JJ, the female gray whale calf that was rescued off the coast of LA on January 1997. Only a few days old, this poor baby was severely dehydrated and was festering with parasites and injuries. Luckily, the SeaWorld in San Diego was able to take her in and was able to give her a special formula that was able to help her, and they later switched her to solid foods such as fish and squids, where she continued to be able to thrive on. As she continued to grow, she was putting on weight, about 50 pounds of weight in a single day. And as they were feeding her, they were pretty much giving her 55 buckets of food a day. This is basically up to 160 pounds of fish in a single day. When she was first found, she was basically about 4 meters long and 758 kilograms. But then when she was released on March 31st, 1998, she was pretty much 9 meters in length and 8,500 kilograms of weight. And while they did have a tracker on her when they released her, unfortunately, the tracking device fell off and she was never to be seen again. But I have no doubt that she's still out there thriving, thanks to the hard-working staff of SeaWorld. A special thanks to viewers like you. You watching my videos make everything count. I want to give a special thanks to the artists who either made art for me or gave me permission to use their art. I want to give special thanks to them. Links to their DeviantArt pages down below. I want to give a special thanks to my fiance. You have been greatly supportive to me and my project, and I always appreciate it. Special thanks to fellow YouTuber Southern Cassowary, YouTube's official cassowary. He was able to help me get some information for this video, so give a special thanks to him. Also, I want to thank my patrons from Patreon. Every little bit helps, and what you guys offer definitely helps me significantly. The video in April will be on the Hyenodon. Stay tuned because what I have to talk about this animal would definitely not be what you expected. I hope you all have a grand day. Adios!